Medieval Chronicles presents Romeo and Juliet, Love and Fate at the Dawn of the Renaissance. In the fading light of the Middle Ages, when the stars were still, believed to govern human destiny, and the name of one family weighed heavier than the heart. Desire, a new force began to stir the awakening of the individual soul. Between the echo of church bells and the hum of city life, two young hearts would rise against centuries of tradition. Their names would become eternal. Romeo and Juliet, not merely lovers, but symbols of a revolution of feeling, of conscience, and of the right to choose one's own fate. The story unfolds in Verona, a city divided by ancient feuds and noble houses, yet alive with the restless pulse of the Italian Renaissance. It was a time when faith met reason, when the old medieval world of duty clashed with the new vision of humanity. Painters, poets, and philosophers dared to say that beauty itself was divine, that to love, to feel, to think freely was not sin, but salvation. But for those born into the rigid walls of the past, this awakening came at a cost. Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet, two heirs of rival families, would discover that love in their world was both a miracle and a crime. Their story begins not with rebellion, but with wonder, a spark in the night of inherited hatred. Theirs is not only the tragedy of two souls, it is the tragedy of an age, the death of the medieval heart and the birth of the modern spirit. At first glance, Verona seems timeless. Towers rise like lances. The sound of hooves echoes through its narrow streets. The church watches over every heart, its authority unchallenged. The family is sacred. Honor defines a man more than his own soul. But beneath this solemn order, something new is breathing, a whisper of freedom, a hunger for self. Merchants grow wealthy. Artists sketch divine figures with human faces. And the young, they dream not of obedience, but of passion. This is the world that birthed Romeo, a dreamer caught between two centuries, a soul too tender for war, too curious for obedience, and Juliet raised within the stone heart of her father's house, pure, devout, and yet already yearning for something unnamed, something beyond prayer and duty. They do not yet know that they are living at the crossroads of history, where love will challenge the laws of heaven and earth. In Verona, the name one carries is a destiny. Montague and Capulet, words older than memory, enemies older than reason. Their feud is not merely personal, it is the echo of medieval honor culture, where insult demands blood and peace is weakness. No one remembers how it began, only that it must not end. It is the same blindness that haunted Europe for centuries. Wars fought in God's name, rivalries sanctified by pride. Within these families lives the last breath of the feudal age. Romeo, restless and romantic, dreams of beauty beyond the battlefield of names. Juliet, obedient yet inwardly brave, begins to see that virtue without freedom is only another form of death. When they meet, the world trembles, not because the stars demand it, but because two souls have found in each other what the age itself has lost: innocence and courage. To love in such a world is to rebel, and rebellion in an age of obedience is the purest form of faith. Night descends upon Verona. Lanterns flicker on the balconies of noble houses, where words of honor and duty are whispered like prayers. And yet, beneath the silence, something stirs the heartbeat of a new world. It is here that Romeo Montague, drawn by curiosity and longing, enters the forbidden feast of the Capulets. Music swells, masks conceal the faces of ancient enemies, and amid the golden light he sees her Juliet. For a moment, the centuries fall silent. No feud, no creed, no law, only two souls who recognize in each other something eternal. Their eyes meet, and in that instant, the old order trembles. For love has spoken the first language of the Renaissance, the belief that the individual heart matters more than the name, the oath, or the crown. In the age of their parents, marriage was duty and love was submission. But in the tender defiance of Romeo and Juliet, the world sees something new, a belief that feeling itself is sacred. This was the same fire that burned in the minds of poets and philosophers across Italy, from Florence to Venice. From Petrarch's verses to Botticelli's faces. The idea that beauty and love are reflections of the divine, not distractions from it. Their love is not sin, it is a declaration that heaven is not above, but within the heart that dares to love freely. Romeo and Juliet speak in whispers, but their words carry the weight of centuries. When Juliet says, "My only love sprung from my only hate," she does not merely lament, she awakens. She begins to see that love and hate are human creations, not divine decrees, and that realization in the 14th century is revolutionary. In a time ruled by priests and patriarchs, the act of choosing one's own love is a form of heresy. Romeo and Juliet become heretics of the heart, believers in a new faith, one not written in scripture, but written in blood and desire. When they meet in secret and exchange vows, they are not merely defying their families, they are challenging the structure of the medieval world itself. The Church blesses love only when it serves order. They love even when it destroys it. Their night together, brief and luminous, feels like the first dawn of a new humanity, a world where emotion is truth and choice is sacred. But history has never been kind to its prophets. As the sun rises, the world of Verona reasserts itself. Honor demands vengeance. Loyalty demands blood. And fate, that ancient word of the Middle Ages, waits in silence. The death of Mercutio and Tybalt shatters the fragile dream. Romeo, once a lover, becomes an exile. Juliet, once an angel of defiance, becomes a prisoner in her father's house. And yet, even in despair, their love refuses to die. In a letter, in a plan, in a whispered hope of reunion, they hold fast to the belief that love can outlive law. That is the final conflict of their age, the faith in destiny that defined the medieval soul, versus the belief in free will that would define the Renaissance. Romeo and Juliet stand at the threshold of that transformation, souls too early for the age they belong to, too pure for the world they were born in. Every age resists its own rebirth. The forces of the past family, faith, pride close in around them, and in a tomb beneath Verona, surrounded by silence and stone, the last act unfolds. Juliet lies sleeping, her body stilled by the illusion of death, a symbol of the world itself, trapped between sleep and awakening. Romeo, blinded by grief, believes the light has gone out forever. He drinks the poison, believing love can only be eternal if it is beyond life. When Juliet awakens and sees him lifeless beside her, she does not weep. She understands. In her final act, she takes the dagger not as despair, but as a form of completion. Their love, denied by the world, finds eternity in defiance. And so, in the quiet of that crypt, the Middle Ages end. The age of obedience dies with them, and the age of self, of feeling of human tragedy, begins. The city awakens once more. Bells toll in mourning, and the feud that ruled Verona for generations finally falls silent. Two families, enemies by name, stand side by side in grief, and for the first time understand the cost of their pride. Romeo and Juliet are gone, but their silence speaks louder than the 1,000 sermons that came before. Their deaths become the mirror of an entire civilization. A reminder that every age built on obedience must one day kneel before the human heart. From the ashes of that tragedy rises a new light. The Renaissance would soon spread its wings across Europe, a revolution not of swords, but of minds. Artists would paint the body as divine, thinkers would question the heavens, and poets would proclaim that to love is to live as gods once did, fully, freely, and without fear. Romeo and Juliet were not merely victims of fate. They were the first citizens of the modern soul, souls that refuse to let family, dogma, or destiny define them. In their love, humanity caught its first glimpse of what it meant to be free. They died in a world that could not yet bear such freedom, but their story lived on, whispered by generations. Retold by artists and dreamers who saw in their defiance a spark of divine courage. The scholars of the age that followed would see their tragedy as more than romance. To some, it was the fall of the medieval world. To others, it was the dawn of self-awareness, the moment when love ceased to be an arrangement of families and became an act of will, of reason and passion intertwined. It is no coincidence that the modern concept of the individual emerged in the same centuries that retold their story. For what is the Renaissance if not the age when man looked within himself and saw the universe reflected in his own soul? And what is love, if not the courage to do the same, to see the infinite in another being, and to say, "You are my world, and I am yours"? 4 centuries later, the names of the Montagues and Capulets have faded into legend, but the names of Romeo and Juliet remain. Their love survived the world that killed them because ideas, like stars, cannot burn out. They only change the sky they shine upon. Each time the story is told, it reminds us that love is not a weakness of youth, but the oldest rebellion of the soul against the tyranny of fate. And perhaps, somewhere beyond time, their spirits walk still, not in Verona, but in every heart that dares to love against the odds. To dream beyond the rules, to believe that what is human can also be divine. Medieval Chronicles reminds us, every story of the Middle Ages is a mirror of ourselves, of our fears, our faith, and our longing to be free. Romeo and Juliet were born into a dying world, but in their defiance, a new one began. And though their bodies perished, their idea that love is the truest form of courage still breathes across centuries. So, the next time you look at the stars, remember Verona. Remember that even in the darkest night of history, 2 hearts dared to write a new dawn. Because fate may bind the body, but the soul that loves is infinite. If history has taught us anything, it is this: the past never truly dies. It lives in every choice, every passion, every act of rebellion that makes us human. Subscribe to Medieval Chronicles, where we uncover the stories, the minds, and the hearts that shaped the world between faith and reason, darkness and light, love and eternity.